You owe it to yourself to tune into this episode of Fit Over 50 Life with our very special guest, Simon T. Bailey. You will learn about micro steps, purpose, process, and payoff, high impact habits, and how to not keep score. Make sure to tune in, subscribe, like, share, and comment, and we'll see you in the episode.
Well said, Kelly. Let's get to it. Okay, welcome back, Fit Over 50 audience. We have a great show for you today. Hey, Simon, welcome to the show.
How are you? Good to see you.
Very good. We were just joking about before this that his volume was low on his microphone, and I said, he's not enthusiastic. Why are we even having him on the show here? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic here. Simon is a complete rock star. Hey, Kelly, how are you today?
Hey, good morning. So good. Best day of my life.
Awesome. So, Kelly, why don't you hit everybody up in our audience with a little background about Simon? Let's dive into what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be very, very, very helpful to everybody.
Absolutely. Well, today's episode is going to be like a deep breath of fresh hope. Our guest is the incredible Simon T. Bailey, and Simon is a best-selling author. He's a keynote speaker internationally. He's a former Disney leader, and he helps people ignite their brilliance and build resilience. And he's spoken to over 2,000 organizations, many of which you have known, in over 50 countries, including Microsoft, American Express, Marriott, and he was actually named one of Success Magazine's top 25 people who can help you reach your goals. And we know this audience is all about that. So whether you're here because you want to reinvent or recover or reignite, this is going to be the spark that you need. This episode is going to light you up. Simon absolutely brings the fire. It's a pleasure to have you here today, Simon. Thanks so much for being with us.
So good to be with you and Mark.
Yes. So, Simon, it's so wonderful to call you friend. And we actually just got to see each other this week, which is always great to see you in person. And wow, we're here to wake people up. We are 50 plus, and we just want to optimize our lives and be the best ever. And you've been such a great example of that. So you say brilliance is not a destination, it is a decision. Can you tell us what you mean by that? Because we've all been through some stuff and we have a choice, and you choose brilliance, so we need some more of that.
So life is like surfing in the ocean. You get knocked off your surfboard because of change, uncertainty, divorce, diagnosis, you name it. Your resilience gets you back on the surfboard. But I believe it's your brilliance that allows you to catch the next wave. So this daily decision to catch the next wave is choosing, and I'm going to mix metaphors intentionally. It's choosing to look through the windshield of where you're going instead of the rearview mirror of where you've been. So it's that daily decision to hit the gas and take control of the steering wheel instead of being controlled by the backseat passengers of doubt, fear, and unbelief, and woe is me.
Teach us how to do that faster.
Seriously.
Not to stay drowning any longer than we need to.
Hey, do you feel that a lot of people today, and I talk about this on a lot of our podcasts, kind of get into that negative loop of producing cortisol and adrenaline and all that good stuff, where they kind of get addicted to the negative emotions that their brain is producing, which the analogy you would say is looking in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, they do. And sometimes people numb themselves out and they're just kind of going through the motions. The lights are on, but nobody's at home. It's what many would call a life-draining conversation. Dr. Jane Dutton in her work calls it a life-draining conversation versus a life-giving conversation. So you're in the loop and the conversation is not causing you to spiral up, it's causing you to spiral down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. So what do you find is your biggest struggle working with people right now? Is it that? Is it, the fixed mindset versus a growth mindset? Where are you at with the temperature of people today?
I think what I'm noticing in the work that I do is sometimes people have bought into the narrative, the story, and the story has become more real and important than the ability to make a change. That's the first thing I'm seeing. I think number two, people are just emotionally exhausted. They are done. They're just kind of like, turn the page. Is anything else going to change? And I think the third thing that I'm noticing, and this kind of ties into some of the work of David Brooks, who wrote an op-ed piece in the New York Times called The Rising Tide of Global Sadness. And the last line in his op-ed piece is, the emotional health of the world is shattering. So, in other words, not everybody is doing okay. Even though you walk by people, you see people on the street, they just kind of have the screensaver face on, because it's easier to suppress pain than to expose, I need help.
Great
Good.
point. Kelly?
Yeah, and I love the surfboard analogy that you gave. So many people are just getting tossed, by the sea of life and drowning, literally just spiraling down to that place of victimhood. So, Simon, obviously you have a personal story of resilience. You've been knocked down 10 times and gotten up 11 or maybe 100 and 101. But was there a moment that you had to decide whether to break down or break through? What was your breakthrough moment?
I think the triple D for me was divorce, a diagnosis of prostate cancer, and contemplating suicide, death. And so it kind of hit me at one time a few years ago. I think the first thing that I had to do for me, at the suggestion of my divorce attorney, was to go and talk to a therapist. And no guy wants to go and talk to a therapist named Anita, who's been practicing therapy for 40 years and has more degrees than a thermostat. And the first thing she says, whatever you don't deal with will eventually deal with you. Wow. Thank you, Anita. And I'm glad to be here. So after I kind of digested that aspirin,
That's
I
awesome.
think the breakthrough came is, number one, I had to forgive myself because life had happened. And I beat myself up. How did I get here? What was me? Don't cry for me, Argentina. Beat myself up, right? So I had to forgive myself. But I think number two, I had to get up every single day and just take a little micro step in my thinking, in my speaking, in my relationships. I had a lot of guy friends who were married, but not marriage minded. So I needed to put myself in a circle with a different group of individuals that would help me become a better human being.
So the divorce, the second thing was the diagnosis of prostate cancer. How close was that to the divorce?
It was probably about 18 months apart.
Okay, were you still getting divorced or were you already divorced?
The process was already in motion. We had already basically signed the paperwork, but when you are paying almost six figures a year in alimony, it's just always a part of your life.
You're not telling me nothing I don't know, bro. I am not right in that ballpark here. So, we're going to change this to Divorced Over 50 Podcast 101. If you are interested in coming on our podcast, and you have to be divorced first, okay? You cannot have a happy marriage. No good, no way. Only divorcees. So, but what you said are two major things. One is the law of insignificance, little things to climb back forward, and number two, going through a massive pain association really shifts your values. And number three, forgiving yourself, man. And because I just went through a 6-year divorce, we shared it on some of our other podcasts, and it took a while to get to the point of just being at peace with, I wasn't a strong enough man to keep my darn marriage together, man. Okay, so what was the third one?
The third
Death.
one was death, suicide.
Oh, suicide. Oh, okay. Well, that's something that seems to be a lot more today, especially with the younger kids today. Just exposure to too much crap. But yeah, I've been there too, man. So I appreciate you being authentic and honest in this, because if you're thinking about it, you can guarantee there's a lot of other people that are going through divorce and these big T traumas, as we call them, and certainly struggling with things. Okay, so you went through those three things. So how long did it take you to climb up, get back, and then take your mess, as we call it, and then turn it into your message to inspire others?
I would say for me, It's taken 5 years, but I'm also still in process. And when I mean still in process, is just because you go through something and you put it behind you, it's in the rearview mirror, doesn't mean that the little gremlins of the past show up. So, what I've had to do is be very intentional in meditating in the morning because I believe how you start the day determines the day. Slowing down to the speed of the moment and literally putting on soft music for 15 minutes and I just sit still. Because if I get into my head, I'll start thinking about everything and literally it'll shut me down from the inside out. So that's the first thing, meditating. And then I started exercising. I started working out. I joined the YMCA, brand new YMCA in my community. And I've been intentional about getting at least an hour and a half of steps and weights and just doing things so that my physical being is getting better. I changed my diet because I tend to be a junk food eater and I love sweets. So apple pie, a la mode, red velvet cake. Don't tell my doctor that I'm doing this. This is just between us, my new BFFs. And so that's been a journey, just doing that. But probably the one thing that I'm working through and I've gotten better is sleep. I in past have maybe gotten 3 to 4 hours. I'm up to 5, creeping towards 6. But it's these little decisions every single day that move me forward. So it's been 5 years removed, but I'm still on the journey and going through the process.
Yeah,
Love
I
that.
think that's a wonderful point. Sorry, Kelly, you were going to say something. You're on a journey, man, and it's people are so interested in arriving in life, and you just never arrive. Especially when you're setting goals, as you know, that are high on your value list. When you hit those goals, you're going to set higher goals and get more fulfillment in the growth process. Kelly, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I love when you talk about the micro steps because sometimes when life just feels so overwhelming, you don't even know where you can begin and everything just seems too big. So you mentioned the sleep, the diet, the exercise. Are there other micro steps that you found were really helpful?
I go to see my therapist once a month. That has been very helpful. My therapist's practice is called the Healing House. So they have an HBOC, an oxygen tank that you can get in, and I do
Oh,
that
that's awesome.
month because I travel a lot. That's been very helpful. I've also connected with a group of guys. So I recently hosted them here at my house, and they said, "Hey, can we bring another guy with us?" Absolutely. And we just stood around the island in my house and just talked about life. Everybody's in a different place. There are a couple of guys that are married, they have younger children. I'm on the older side, so I'm the over 50 guy. But to kind of hear what their challenges are, but also their wins, it was so therapeutic just to be around men and just to kind of talk. And they said, "Can we do this at least once a month?" I said, "Absolutely." So we'll find another spot. That has been very, very helpful to create a community and not buy into just because you're divorced and single, you're lonely. I choose to be alone, not lonely.
Great point. Hey, Kelly, I think Simon and I are going to start a club called the Six Figure Alimony Club. So I think Kelly's the only one that was the opposite there. So just because Kelly's very
Yeah,
successful. So,
I gave my husband the money, but yeah, ex-husband. Anyway, so
Kelly, I like to share some of those details.
yeah. So Simon, where do you see people getting stuck and stopped? Because we have a choice,
Good
right?
point.
We can get back on the surfboard or not. Where is it that people just they don't make the comeback?
I think it comes down to purpose, process, and payoff. When I talk about purpose, it's really asking the four most important questions. These questions were was from one of my mentors. He said, "You got to ask yourself, where have I been? Why am I here? What can I do? And where am I going?" Those four purposeful questions allow an individual to self assess where they are. So you got to start with those questions because the Socratic method of learning, the answers in the question. And then when we go to process, years ago, in one of my books, I talked about high impact habits. And this is obviously way before James Clear took habits to a whole nother stratosphere. But I had gone to a session, and the facilitator said, "You don't decide the future, you decide your habits, and your habits decide the future. And when he said it, it was just like a joy bomb went off in my head, because he said the secret to thriving and being successful is hidden in the daily routine. So when I talk about that process, it's that invitation for a person to zoom out and say, what's my process? Are these habits getting me the outcome that I want? And then as it relates to payoff, what I realized, and it took a whack upside the head, I was chasing money but had no meaning. I was pursuing power but had no purpose. And I was going after status but had no satisfaction. So, yes, we had the car, the 6,000 square foot house, gated community, kids in private school, vacations in Hong Kong and Singapore, but our marriage was dying a death by 1,000 cuts. And I thought the payoff was things and stuff. It wasn't. It was understanding how to be kind. It was understanding how to shift from selective hearing to authentic listening. It was understanding that when my daughter came in and she wanted to talk to me, that instead of settling down to listen to her, I was emotionally unavailable because I was off to the next thing. So we have to step back and say, what's the real payoff? And how do I move from success to significance?
That is major points that you made there. I notice for myself now, and maybe this just comes with going through the mud and life kind of not throwing you curveballs and all that crap, divorce, financial situations, things like that. Is now when I analyze something, I always look at it as is this feeding my ego or feeding my soul? So all my decisions now, I run through that process. Is it my ego that I'm feeding by doing this, or my soul? And I find much more peace when it's for my soul.
That's so good, Mark. I think peace is everything. And putting it through that filter that you just articulated is a yes to protecting your peace. Peace is everything. And I am that same way. Is this going to bring me peace, or is this going to be a problem?
Peace is such a great barometer, and I think you were reading, I'll say definitely my mail and some of Mark's mail too, that we could relate to the golf course and 6,000 square foot house, but just empty on the inside. And at this season, a lot of people in their lives, you talked about the value of community. They're just isolated, feeling alone, feeling invisible. What would you say to that person who maybe they do find themselves divorced or in just an empty marriage? And, how do we help pull them out of that?
So, because of my failed marriage, don't take any advice from me. That's
I disagree with that. I think because you've been through it, that you can offer a lot of wisdom. Like I said, the mess turns to the message. I mean, obviously, you can teach people what to watch out for during the process as the marriage possibly erodes. So,
Yeah, so I could say here's what I learned from my failure because failure comes before success in the dictionary. I think one of the things I realized is I had a need to be right in my marriage, and I did not want to be proven wrong. So if you did not agree, if she did not agree, I would out-talk her or I would shut down. And in shutting down, did not use my words. And all of a sudden, cat's got my tongue and I can't speak because I'm mad, I'm upset because I'm not having my way. And that was very immature and disrespectful on my end. I think the other thing for those who are married, if you don't like what you are receiving, look at what you're putting out. Because if you are putting out a certain vibe, she picks up on that, and women have a sixth sense about things. They get there before we as men show up. So really dialing back and saying, what am I putting out here? Because it might come back to haunt you. I think the other thing that I learned is when it's all said and done, it's easier to forgive and forget. Don't keep score. And I had a need to keep score. And well, you said this last time, you did this, and you did that. And then everything, there was always a money or financial conversation. Not that money was a problem, it was just how money was used as a tool. And sometimes it would be used in a manipulative way. So don't manipulate each other over finances. Talk things out, truly be healthy. Because here's the other thing, for those of you who have children, a daughter is going to marry a man based on her relationship with her dad. And whatever that looks like, a son is going to marry a woman and treat her based on how he saw his dad treating his mother. And so, one of the things I will say, though Renee and I divorced, we are great co parents. And in fact, I just talked to her today because we have a 23-year-old, 26-year-old trying to get them launched and working through some things. She has another partner. She's moved on. Very happy for her. So now when we talk, there is laughter, there is forgiveness, there is understanding, and there's a pause. What are you thinking? I want to hear it, because I didn't do that before, but now on this side, I can be friendly and respectful.
Wow. So many great points. I'm taking notes. I'm in school here, Simon. So many good points.
Yeah, we always say these podcasts, sorry to talk over you, Kelly, these podcasts are more for Kelly and I than anybody in our audience listening or watching here. So
it is all
that's
about
why we
us.
started this whole darn thing here, so that we can get to a better place. That's wonderful words of wisdom, and it's 100% spot on. And it does get better if you are in the storm right now. So I know for me, my ex and I are communicating a lot more now, and it's civil. I mean, it could drop, in the wrong text. It could go bad. So I'm very careful with that. Kelly, you were going to say something while I spoke over. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I've related to so much, and I love that you use the word maturity as well. And that's, a lot of what it takes to land where you did and look at where you were and how you behaved. And we could all hold up the mirror and say the same things. And I love that you have now hit that sweet spot where your purpose, your passion, your profit, you used another P word, payoff, all kind of came together. So what's the difference between living the life of success and the life of significance?
The life of success is about me. The life of significance is about we. In other words, I am looking for, how do I make the world a better place one day at a time? Prime example, this is not to impress anyone. This is all I've got to work with. I was in Buffalo, New York, where I grew up a few months ago, and I was at Wegmans. And for those who are familiar with Wegmans, it is the thing if you live in the Northeast. Great grocery store. And it's about 7 in the morning, and there's an older lady that's coming in the line behind me. I'm paying the cashier, and I noticed that she had some things that she was buying. So I just said to the cashier, I said, hey, here's an extra 20. Go ahead and pay for whatever she's getting. And I just kind of basically ran out of the store, right? And I heard the lady saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe this person just did this. I've been in the hospital all night looking after my elder relative, and I was just desperate to get something to eat. And I didn't stay around for her thank you, but it made me feel better. It made me feel significant that I could do something for someone with no strings attached. No need for it to be posted on social to get a like or comment, ooh, look at me. But just in the privacy of the three of us, the cashier, this lady, and myself, there was a moment. I'll never see her again. She'll never see me again. But I believe in the law of reciprocity. What goes around comes around. So I put something good out in the universe that had nothing to do with success. Look at me. But it was everything about doing something significant for another.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been in a couple of situations where I've been in grocery lines, and you see people counting change and roll down. I'm just like, hey, just whatever they got, just put it on my bill, and good luck, and I'll see you later, and done with it. And it's just paying ahead for people is probably one of the simplest things you could do to put some goodwill out into the universe and put that energy out there. Well said. Definitely.
So, Simon, to the person who's listening to that voice going, you've wasted too much time, you're too far gone, you're not enough, it's too late, and they're literally under the water. I mean, I could barely see the surfboard up there. What do you say to them?
It's never too late to become the person you might have been. In your 30s, you think you know everything. In your 40s, you get the wind knocked out of your sail. In your 50s is when you wake up and you realize you can get yourself together. And what I'm starting to realize in talking with a lot of individuals who are in other decades older than myself, could it be that real living doesn't happen until 60? Because you begin to understand where you are. So don't give up on where you are in your journey. Life keeps lifing. How do you stand up again, forgive yourself, and start with a blank sheet of paper? In the movie Silence of the Lamb, Anthony Hopkins, which is probably one of my favorite actors, all of the research about him, he didn't really hit it until his late 50s or 60s. He had done a ton of work, but it was in his 60s when everything came together. So wherever you are, it's not too late.
That's awesome. So, what do you find is your biggest struggle when you work with people? Is it the narrative? Is it the way they identify themselves? I mean, what do you find is the biggest struggle when you hit people at the moments when they need the most help?
Yeah, I think one of the things I discover is this whole thing around trauma, and everybody responds to trauma differently. Because I'm not a licensed counselor, I do refer people to go and see an expert because that's not my area, and I don't want to open up any doors by looking back. I like to look forward. So I think trauma, number one. Number two, Dr. Martin Seligman from University of Pennsylvania introduced a concept called self-explanatory style. And as people are explaining their journey, their life, you hear the loop, Mark and Kelly. You hear the pain, you hear the frustration. And if you can just get people out of that loop to create a healthy conversation with themselves as they talk about life in the future, I think that's the second thing. The third thing is sometimes you can have, let's see, how do I want to say this? I want to say this with all due respect. You can have a 50 by 60 dream, but you have a community that has 8 by 10 thinking. And one of the things you have to be mindful of is the community causing you to move forward, or is it keeping you stuck where they are? Because people don't see you as you are, they see you as they are. And they communicate to you based on where they're sit, their social economic status, their education, their experience, everything. So we have to say, how do we escape the centripetal force that is pulling us this way? And how do we truly take that moonshot and go after what we really want? Who's in the community? I'll say it like this to sum it up. Whoever has your ear has your life.
Wow,
Who
well said.
has your ear?
And I just have to agree with you 1000%. This is not to stroke your ego, is that trauma is such a big, big issue today. I think it's always been an issue. I just think it's gotten more acceptable to actually come forward and share some of the experiences that people have had and how that plays on their psyche. But the narrative is, the story is more important than the experience itself. Well said.
Yeah, and Simon, I know your focus has been on resilience and brilliance. It seems like it's another level to get to brilliance. From resilience is get back up, but let's talk more about brilliance. Let's get there.
So we did some research. We hired a third party company to ask 1,000 working Americans, how do they define brilliance? And if we gave them 17 choices, the top three as it relates to defining brilliance is confidence, creativity, and intelligence. Confidence, creativity, and intelligence. So when you look at that, if resilience gets you back on the surfboard, and brilliance allows you to catch the next wave. In other words, the most important thing you have to protect in any economy is your confidence. Because the economy between your ears is what allows you to tap into creativity and intelligence. Let me say it to you a different way. There are a number of people right now that are looking over their shoulder, almost like the Blair Witch Project. Oh my goodness, is AI coming for me? And what I'm inviting people to think about as it relates to understanding your brilliance is to practice AI, actual intelligence. And actual intelligence says, I have experiences, I have know how, I have failures, I have successes, I have wins. How do I cognitively tap into that data and begin to pull from that data and begin to create my own algorithm that allows me to be relevant in every economy? So when people hear the headlines from CEOs that 60% of you will not be around next year, we will no longer be hiring software engineers. Your job is going to disappear. People have to begin to say there's a difference between a job, a career, and a calling. How do you find your calling? Because a job stands for just overboard. And when you find your calling, which may start as a career, you recognize that your brilliance in every economy allows you to rewire and reinvent yourself.
I have to believe for corporate America, this is probably a big talking point right now because a lot of people are scared, for lack of a other word, of what's going on because it's new, it's unknown, and anytime it's unknown, there's that fear emotion that kicks in automatically as it brain tries to protect ourselves from pain, perceived pain. So
That's all good. So I know because we've had personal conversations, you're now going from brilliance to an even higher level and being a dealer of hope. I mean, it's on the inside of you and it just can't help but leave you in every way. You're thinking, your words, what you say from the stage. So can you talk to us a little bit more? There's so many people who are hopeless. What is your message about hope?
Well, first of all, I am the epitome of hope. Just a little backstory. Growing up in Buffalo, New York, third poorest city in America, according to the US Census. At school, at 10 years of age, my parents were called to the school, and the principal said that I was a problem child and they were going to label me. And my mother said there's nothing wrong with me, took me, and just over a series of a number of months and years, and still to this day at 85, prayed for me. And so I stand here today on the compound interest of a praying mother and grandmother who infused me with hope. Went to high school, failed all of my classes. My freshman year, went out for football, got cut, went out for basketball, got cut, went out for track and field. They said you are too slow. You may want to try cross country. So my self-esteem at 14 years of age was a total disaster, so much so between 14 and 15, I attempted suicide. I don't share these things for you to listen to Cry Me a River, but what I share with you is that a hopeless person is a helpless person. A hopeful person is a helpful person. And what I realize now at 56 years of age, my entire 42-year journey has been a journey of hope, because hope is a magnet that pulls you into the future. My parents dropped me off at college at the end of my freshman year. They called and said, we don't have the money to send you back to school, nor do we have money to bring you back to Buffalo, but we do love you in Atlanta, Georgia, living in a drug-infested community, on public transportation, no car at all. And when I got a car, it was a piece of a car, operative word, piece of a car. So I had to have hope during that 19 years of age, lost as a goose in a blizzard. Then eventually joining Disney. It took me 2 years to get hired at Disney, 10 interviews, and a 10-page psychological analysis from Gallup. So after 2 years of interviewing, who's going to be hopeful? It's easier to be hopeless and say, later, Mickey, I'm good. But I stuck with it and ended up joining Disney, worked there for 7 years. Then 22 and a half years ago, I decide that I'm going to leave Disney and go out on my own. Countries going to war with Iraq. Corporations were laying off by the hundreds of thousands. Who puts a shingle out and says, I'm going to be the man? No one said that's crazy, right? But I did it anyway. So literally, it's been a journey of hope. And then to go through a divorce, to have the IRS slap you with a $500,000 tax liability, and all of a sudden you feel like you are working for Uncle Sam. Like, who signed up for that? Easy to be hopeless. So I only share that with you just as a backdrop so I don't sound like the movie First Blood where they say we're the weekend warriors. I'm not a weekend warrior when it comes to hope. For me, hope runs really deep. So let me just share this, and I'll be curious to hear your thoughts. Dr. Rick Snyder was a scholar at the University of Kansas. For 30 years, his research was on hope theory. And one of the things that I realized, I'm a late bloomer. I did go back to school, finish my undergrad and master's degree. I was just on the 10-year plan. So now in my 50s, I love books. I'm reading, I'm studying, I want to learn so much. And what Dr. Snyder discovered in his work is that there is willpower and there is way power. He says, if you have the will, hope, if you have the will to make a choice for a better tomorrow, you will find a way. In other words, when I looked at that, and his work came out in the 90s, when I looked at that, I said, you will find a way. What he was really speaking to was agency. This is a lot of what Dr. Brene Brown talks about. So when a person has hope, hope gets you out of bed in the morning to try a new venture. Hope gets you out of bed in the morning to say, let's see if the marriage can work, or the relationship can work, or I can get a promotion, or I can do better, or if I'm rewired, how do I hope for a better day? Hope allows you to move forward. Hope allows you to be the plus in a minus world. Hope invites you to find a yes in a no world. So this whole thing of hope, what I realize, my entire life has been a life of hope. I mean, right? What do y'all think?
Well, I think you got me beat on the IRS divorce thing by about 75,000. That's why I was laughing there. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing with you. So, we are brothers from another mother for sure. Gone through hell, but man, I could listen to you all day talk about hope. That's for sure. I mean, it is so inspiring. Now I see why you've been on so many different stages here. But without hope, I don't know how you get up in the morning. And there's days, as you know, through your divorce where you had no hope. I mean, I spent 2 months in bed after finalizing my divorce because I traveled for 18 years, gave my family a decent life. Everybody sacrificed a lot of things and literally lost everything. And the story came, and it was, what do you do when you lose everything? And I always wondered what you did. Well, you cry for a little bit, and then you get up and you start putting the pieces back together again. And it sounds like that's what you did, and you're at a higher level now. And it's very inspiring. But without hope, you got nothing in life, man. So isn't that a Shawshank Redemption reference there? So you seem like a movie buff, so I'm definitely going to do that. So Morgan Freeman's best one there. So
I've seen it 10 times. One of my favorite movies.
absolutely. Kelly?
I love that you shared your backstory. It is so powerful. I learned things that I didn't even know about you, and I know that your faith is important to you. And I
You
love
are getting
that.
attacked by that
I know
fly
there's
all
one fly. I had my
podcast here.
garage door open.
It's got to be the hairspray, Kelly.
Yeah,
So.
there's no hairspray. It was I left
Okay,
the garage door open
sorry.
and one fly got in. I know how important your faith is to you, and I love that you share your messages in a non-religious and non-sensational way that so many people can just connect and just get fed from, and that's how you're able to do this on such big stages for these big corporations. But it's in you. So can you talk a little bit about how important your faith is to you?
Without God, I'm nothing. Without God, I would fail. Without God, I would be like a ship without a sail. That is a 100-year-old hymnal. And for me, the only reason I'm here is because of my faith in God. It was my faith that got me through. It's my faith that keeps me alive. It's my faith that keeps me grounded. I can tend to get in my own way and become a little egotistical. Ken Blanchard calls that edging God out. And what I realized, there is not a day where I don't take a moment and just pause and say, God, thank you for this day. You know, when you go to the hospital and you see people at death's door, you're like, wait a minute. And they come out of it. For me, don't know what you believe in, there's a God somewhere. So for me, I always come back to God, and even more practically every day, the first couple of hours of my meditation is just spent in prayer and worship in the Word. It just works for me. It's my therapy, and it keeps me centered and grounded.
I'm thankful you shared that. I mean, our audience is a mix of different things that people believe, and we're here to encourage people. And if you're feeling hopeless and, your life is not going the way you think and you're drowning, it could be absolutely something more that you explore. So shifting gears a little bit, you've been on some world-class stage. You do all this leadership training with some of the best people in the business. Can you share maybe a success story without necessarily naming names if you don't want to, but just a transformation that might give someone hope in addition to your own story?
Wow, three quick stories. I was speaking at an event in Nashville. Guy came up to me and said, I just heard you speak, and I've been diagnosed with a rare disease, and I haven't told my family about it. And he says, you gave me permission to tell my family. Second story, I was standing on a step and a repeat, Nashville, and this lady came up to me and she says, I wasn't going to come down and listen to your keynote because I was going to commit suicide. And today you gave me a reason to live. She broke down, I broke down. And in that moment, I realized, you know what? That's what it's all about. And then the third story, I was just this past week with almost a $1 billion privately held company in Pennsylvania. And they got a hold of one of my books where I teach everything I learned about customer service and some of the work I did for Ritz-Carlton. And they said, we have 4,000 employees. We've purchased your book for the top 300 leaders. We're going to implement your book called Be the Spark into our system so that we can take better care of our customers by starting with our employees first. And to just be honored that way, a book that I wrote right at the beginning of divorce when financially I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to make it? And all I want to say to someone listening to us is if you hang in there long enough, things will turn around. You just got to hang in there. Do not give up, because just when you're about to give up, you're on the edge of a breakthrough.
Favorite place you spoke as a speaker? Favorite company or place?
Favorite place was New Zealand. Some of the most amazing people in New Zealand.
Did you say West Virginia? Is that what you said? Okay, that's what you said. So, no offense, West Virginia. Okay, just saying. Okay, I've
But
been here
also
plenty of
Ireland.
times. Okay, so
Ireland was probably my other favorite place. Amazing people in Ireland.
And you have some exciting things coming up even the rest of this year. Tell us a few of those.
Oh my goodness. I've been graciously honored to facilitate a 3-hour CEO summit in LA in a couple of weeks for the top 100 CEOs in the association industry, and looking forward to that. Also be heading to Peru to work with a
nice.
client. This will be my 18th time speaking to them, and I'm like, did y'all not get it the first 17 times? No, but it'll be great. Really excited about that, and then a number of other cool things that we're doing in the world.
So exciting. So Simon, we do want to share all that you're doing and how people can get in touch with you. Do you want to give us a snapshot of your books? Because I know they've been a progression of how from the first one until this most recent one. Tell us about
Sure.
those.
Yeah, so all the books are on Amazon. Let me just start there. Simon T. Bailey, they'll come up. But 20 years ago, everything started with Release Your Brilliance. And I've written Shift Your Brilliance and Releasing Leadership Brilliance kind of series. And then I have written a book called Brilliant Living, which is probably one of my favorite books because it's like a short book that you can get through in 31 days with snippets of what to apply. Then I wrote a book because, you know, after you go to divorce, you have something to say. But I wrote it for guys under 50 to save them $100,000 in legal fees. And that book is called Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life, a Guide for Men. And it's a play on words. Women don't need their power ignited, but men need to have a great relationship with a woman in order to come into true masculinity, not toxic masculinity. So, Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life, a Guide for Men. And then Resilience at Work, which is on my most recent book. If anyone remembers the book Who Moved My Cheese, where you were
Sure.
introduced to him, haw, sniff, and scurry, I looked at that and I wrote Resilience at Work as a business parable. So you're introduced to hurry, worry, ready, and steady, who actually meet at a surfing camp. And that book is how to resilience at work, how to coach yourself into a thriving future. So I take you through their stories.
Wow. That is incredible, Simon. Definitely getting that one from my son, who's 25 and in a serious relationship about igniting the power of women. I love that. Okay, well, this has been medicine for our
Yeah.
soul, Simon, truly. And I know our listeners are absolutely going to want more. So, besides the Amazon, how else can they find you, follow you?
Yeah, Simon T. Bailey, the T for terrific. It was right there. It was right there.
Titan.
SimonTBailey.com, Simon T. Bailey on LinkedIn, Instagram, any of the social media platforms. Also, Simon T. Bailey and Substack. I'm on Substack. Yes.
Okay, love it. I bet you
Nice.
have a lot to say on there. People should check that out if they have not. And then you have a course as well.
Yes, if you go to LinkedIn Learning, I've got about 14 courses that have been translated into 8 languages that are on that platform. So LinkedIn Learning, just put in my name and my courses will come up.
Wow. Well, Simon, we hope to have you back many, many times. But if this were your last word for today, what didn't we ask you, or what is it that you want to leave our listeners with?
I love you and I believe in you. And there's not a darn thing you can do about it because love and respect and kindness have no color.
Wow. What a great wrap up. So thank you, Simon, for reigniting us. I'm fired up. I've got 2 pages of notes, and just everyone out there listening, we hope that you dive into your purpose and your passion and your process and get more of Simon's content and continue to tune in and follow us on Fit Over 50 Life. Thank you so much, Simon.
Thanks,
Thank
Simon.
you.
You
Thank
are
you, Mark.
you are a
Thank you.
true rock star, man. You walk the walk, talk the talk. Thanks for being on the show. Hopefully, everybody got something out of this episode today. You could apply to your life and live a healthier lifestyle. In the meantime, we will see you all very soon. Thanks for tuning in.